Hello students, welcome to your group documentation plan, doc plan, assignment / proposal assignment. I've put the proposal in there just because the McMurray textbook has a model for a proposal which is very similar to the doc plan proposal in many ways that is in the Pringle textbook. But this assignment that is before you on the screen right now is quite long. I'm going to go through it right now with you and show you some of the resources available online that will help you with this project and give you some ideas for this project. So I'm recording this to be released on the day that the assignment is officially released per the course calendar. So that is on the 8th. So I also on the 8th distributed the group assignments. So be sure that you check your email. In your email, you should have an email from me that gives you the names and email addresses of your group mates. So spring break starts 2 days from the day this assignment is released. So you want to work fast and at least get in touch with all your group mates and come up with a plan before everybody sort of scatters around for spring break. You want to get your plan in place. The draft of this, the completed draft of this is due Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. after we return from spring break. So you want to be sure that your plan is well in place so that whatever tasks have been divvied up to individual members of the group, those can be worked on over break. And whatever collaborative processes you know that you need to have, you have the plan in place to work on that too. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit from the assignment and then I'll move on to showing you some other resources. So in this group project, you will create a doc plan proposal. Your doc plan will describe documentation text you will create for a client who you will choose or imagine. So you're going to find or imagine a company, appliance, or resource app that could benefit from providing its users with a user guide, a quick start guide, and an HTML resource help. Now I'll interject here that these kinds of documentation are what a technical communicator might eventually produce, but this part, the doc plan, is basically the proposal to do that work. So this is sort of a foundational exercise that a team of technical writers would go through before they got to the meat and potatoes, which is the actual writing of the documentation. So your group will have to begin its work with a brainstorming session. So on the Wednesday that this is assigned, or the Thursday, you need to have that brainstorming session because you need to come up with just the right client that everybody in the group agrees on. And come up with a name for yourself as a company. So you will use the Pringle textbook's model of a doc plan and the Murray text proposal model as basically the foundation for your doc plan. So here we have I have two things on the screen right now, but the one that I'm scrolling through is the sample doc plan. And it has a sort of a transmittal letter at the beginning, and then it goes through bit by bit what would be included in the documentation set that your company would provide to the client. So this is a pretty basic doc plan. Now what I did is I also did a little searching online for sample documentation plans, and you're going to want to do the same thing. There's one available on TechWhirl. I know I've pointed you to TechWhirl before, and they have a template available. So that template for a doc plan is actually really, really interesting. And if you look at it and you compare it to the one in the Pringle textbook, you will start to discover that there's no single, best way to write a documentation plan. So this one doesn't have a transmittal letter at the beginning, but it could. But it goes through and talks about the different things that the documentation set would include and how that work would be done and who the constituencies are that it concerns. A lot of talk about audience in this particular proposal. They have a table that shows the different deliverables: user manual 1, 2, quick start guide, online help, FAQ. And you in yours, if you wanted to create a table, you wouldn't have all of these items because I didn't ask you to produce all of these items. You would just need to mention the ones that I asked you to produce, which are a user guide, a quick start guide, and an HTML help resource. So that's one, the template that came from TechWhirl that you should really take a look at. If you just do a Google search for Tech Whirl and documentation plan, you'll probably arrive to this template. Another one is available here from xmlpress.net, and theirs is just embedded in this page. It's not downloadable. But this again is a very basic one, but it gives you an idea of the range of approaches that there are for this documentation plan. So I say in the assignment that I want you to use the Pringle and the McMurray as your foundation, but I encourage you to build off of those with some of the knowledge that you develop by looking around at other doc plans. So all of the members of the group should do their due diligence and do some of that research so you guys can come together in a conversation and find out what you want to include in yours, what you think is the best content to include in yours. So back to the assignment, one thing that might be tempting is to think that, oh, well, the Pringle doc plan has basically all the language and all the content that we need. We'll just change their company, Winkleplan Software and Winklewart Technologies, to ours. Obviously, Pringle and his co-author came up with a funny person here, Mr. Rip Van Winkle of Winklewart Technologies. But you cannot complete this assignment successfully if you just use all of this verbatim and you change the name of that company to yours. That's not going to work. You need to build off of this. The language needs to be your own. It needs to speak to the audience for this plan, which is the company. And it also needs to be intimately knowledgeable about the audience for that company's product. So this has one first level audience, but then it has a lot of knowledge about the second level audience, which is the people who are actually using the technology for which the documentation is written. So be careful that you don't fall prey to the temptation to just do an easy trick and just think you can just change the company name and then you're done. So this whole paragraph here is not, is what I just basically summarize, that you're not supposed to just do like a quick, fast and dirty job of changing things around. You need to do a really original job with this. So you will be writing to your chosen client, offering a bid and plan to write a documentation set for them, and your final PDF plan will propose your group's approach, plan, timeline, etc., as the textbook model shows, and as a lot of these other models show too. So for this assignment, you have to submit this information. And perform these tasks. So you have to have at least 2 group meetings, preferably 3, via Google Hangouts or Skype. Now, some of you in your groups will be on campus and you guys might want to meet in person. And if one person isn't on campus or lives who knows where, that person can be Skyped in or Google Hangouts into the meeting. So I'm not going to really keep tabs on how many meetings you're having, but I will tell you that one of those meetings each group member has to record 5 minutes of. Not one recording to be used by all group members. Each group member has to record 5 minutes. And that is because I, A, don't want that job to only fall to one person, and B, I want to be sure that you all know how to do a screen recording. So you've had to do this already. And what I want you to know is that, again, if you're on a Mac, you can use QuickTime. That's what I'm using right now. But if you're on a Mac or PC, you can use Jing. I have it right up here in the corner of my screen. It's this little yellow sunburst. It's a free download, and you can just capture. But the limit is 5 minutes, which is why I chose this 5-minute screen recording. And it saves as a SWF, a Shockwave file, and then you just upload that to Learn, and I open it in my browser. So that is the first criteria you need to be sure. Keep in mind when you're planning your group meetings that you're going to have to record 5 minutes of one of them. Now, also, each member of the group has to complete an activity report for each week of the assignment. So that's 3. And you can read everything I say here on your own time, but I've included a template on the assignment submission page right here, status report template. And it looks like this when you open it. It's this InfoGen software, of course. You could change that to be your company's name. You'd have to modify the PDF or recreate this in Word or however. And it's pretty straightforward for week, 2 from, and how did you do that week, and what did you do, what's still in progress, and what's going to happen next week. So everybody has to do that every week of the project. And so the third item here is all groups have to have one Google Hangout, Skype, or in-person meeting with me. That's for you to schedule. I'm not going to be emailing you or reminding you. Well, I probably will remind you, but maybe not nagging you to schedule this with me. This is something you have to be responsible for planning. Then you have to turn in the draft document. As I said, this is due 11:59 p.m. the Wednesday we return from spring break. And then one final doc plan submitted as a PDF to learn, 4 to 6 page single spaced. And this is the same document for everybody in the group. So there are some things in this project that are individual, like your status reports, and there's some things that are common, like the draft and the final doc plan. Then everybody individually has to write a 1 to 2 page memo at the very end, which is an individual reflective memo. I want you to talk about your own contributions, talk about the challenges or the benefits of working with your group, either all together in synchrony or independently at different times, asynchronously, how well or how poorly it went using the remote communication technologies or the collaborative tools like Google Docs. Also, I'd like you to highlight the course outcomes and how this assignment reinforced them. And that is a required part of this, 1 to 2 single-space pages. So I sketch out here kind of a way of organizing your work and some of the dates where things are due here. And then I talk about the things that you must submit, 5 documents and 1 video. And you can read all about what is due and and when, and then the grading details are broken down here. The reflective memo and the final document components, I will post a rubric that will have more smaller allocations of those 25 and 75 points for each of those, so you can see how you might want to shape or what you might want to bear in mind. There will be some point allocation for things like mechanics, and there will be point allocation for things like the overall document design and organization, and the inclusion of the required content. So you can look for that, and I think one final thing that is very important that I didn't show you. So I pulled 3 examples of companies or products that you might want to write a documentation set for. Your own little company with your group might want to propose to write documentation for this company. So I picked ADT, the ADT Pulse app. This web page here talks about what the app does, but you might want to propose to write those different documentation sets for this app. So you would have to know what the app does, know a bit about it, and who uses it in order to describe what you are going to do in these documentation components. So that's one example. Another one is, this is just from the iTunes store page, but it's for the Frigidaire Smart Appliances app, and they're a division of Electrolux home products, and they've actually gotten quite bad reviews for this app. But you need to learn about what it would do, what it's supposed to do, and how an app would actually serve the users of that product in taking best advantage of what the product can do. And maybe what the users need to have a better experience of using the product is better documentation, better instructions, a better quick start guide, better problem solving tools. So this is another one. Now the final one that I pulled is for the Echo, Amazon Echo. So this is their page about Meet Alexa. This is all the different things that you can ask Alexa, the virtual assistant via Amazon Echo, to do for you, to help you with. And it turns out that they have a 1-page PDF quick start guide. Now this is the sort of thing that a technical writer, a team of technical writers would have produced for the Amazon Echo. And you see it's got some illustrations in it, it's got numbered lists, it's got some tips and things to do. This is a 1-pager. Now this is a quick start guide, and it's called Quick Start Guide. You can see that. So I've given you 3 examples of maybe kinds of products or technologies or apps. The Amazon Echo one isn't itself an app, but it does have an app, the Echo app, that you need to download But these other two were apps that you would want to write documentation for, propose to write it for, to teach the user of the app how to use it. So please be creative. Think about the things that your group as a whole might think would be interesting to write a documentation set for. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm going to sign off. And I want you guys to get going on this on the day the assignment is assigned. So that's Wednesday the 8th.